Good evening, Florida, and welcome to Coastal Conservative News, where truth has a backbone and freedom still has a home.
We're bringing you the bold stories and the real headlines and the voices that matter most, right here from the heart of the free state of Florida, from Tallahassee to the Sun Coast.
We're tracking the political shifts, community victories, and constitutional battles shaping the future of our state and our great nation.
So buckle up, it's time to get informed, get fired up, and get involved.
This is CCN Coastal Conservative News. Hi guys, Allie and Michelle here with Coastal Conservative News. We are not in the studio, clearly. We are in Panama City Beach here in the Panhandle of Florida. What are we doing here, Allie?
We are bringing you live interviews and covering the Department of Health as they discuss removing 4 vaccines from the schedule in order for you to register your child to school, and as they were also discussing removing mandates, period, for vaccines. And so we have the board members that were here. It was more, I feel like, a formality. Nothing was really decided today.
Right.
But we did have speakers from the doctors and pharma, but we also had parents and advocates for consumer rights and parental rights and school choice. And so we're bringing you those interviews.
And I'll tell you, being inside the room, organically, medical freedom showed up, and they really showed up big. And it wasn't really an organized effort. It's just kind of, this. Here we are in Panama City Beach. Not many people knew about this. They're not doing this throughout the state, largely, even in Southwest Florida. I'm sure you would like to have your voices heard, but you have to travel 6.5 hours just to come here for one meeting.
And go to the website to submit your comment, because they are still taking comments.
We will put that as a lower third. I'll make sure we get that. But what we want to do today is bring you some of the voices of those that testified in there. It was heartwarming to hear some of the testimony of people who have had firsthand effects, whether it's adverse effects from vaccines. Also hear from some of those in the medical community that were really kind of snickering. Laughter is
personal testimony of others.
It is. So we want to bring you guys those interviews. Keep it locked here. We still have Cam in the moment. We still have Faith and Focus with Kevin. That'll be coming up towards the end of the hour. Keep it here for more right here from Panama City.
I'm Allie Legay. Allie Legay, LeggealY.
I'm Larry Downs Jr., and I own Larry Downs Jr. Plumbing LLC because fecal matters.
Michelle Posey, MICHELLE POZZI.
Perfect. So what's your stance here today on the vaccines?
We're getting ready to do an interview because we represent independent journalism too. So with regard to the vaccines, I think we're all honestly on the side of, if something is so wonderful, why mandate it? And mandates don't belong in the free state of Florida or
And like this lovely gentleman has said, where there is risk, there must be choice. And mandates are, like I said in my speech, antithetical to choice, especially when you're trying to tie that with public education, which everybody pays for and invests in, but you're also not building the infrastructure for the risks that are involved with consumer products like these that have a liability-free exemption, that have massive marketing campaigns and lobbyists that are paid, and doctors get incentives, but you're also not building the infrastructure for children that have these adverse reactions to deal with in their schools. So you don't have enough teachers, you don't have enough paras, you don't have enough 504 plans and IEP plans and special ed teachers and things like that. So how are you going to mandate something and you're not also providing the infrastructure to fix the issues that are going to be caused by it? And we've clearly seen that all of these vaccines, literally all of them, have never had a double-blind placebo testing. And so how can you literally stand there and say that they are safe and effective? Like smoking while you're pregnant, or like Tylenol recently? Let's be real. These pharmaceutical companies have been largely complicit in creating faulty products.
And here's what we're hearing from moms, from people on the ground level that are looking into like whether or not this is something. I've asked, what does the opt-out mean to you? They don't know what an opt-out is. So here's the thing. Why don't we make vaccines the most safe, most effective, double-blind placebo testing, and then say opt in for them?
Right.
It's not my job to say I don't want it. It's your job to entice me to why I should take it.
The default setting should always be freedom. You should not have to get an exemption, fill out a form to obtain your God-given inalienable rights. You cannot do that. It violates, whenever a mandate comes about like this, it violates the basic principles of liberty. which is the foundation of this very country that we live in and this free state of Florida that we live in. And these vaccines, these package insert sheets that I have accumulated, and I have a ton of them, every one of them say the exact same thing in 13.1.
Yep.
Has not been evaluated for carcinogenic, mutagenic potential, or impairment of fertility, period, like the MMR. But a lot of the other ones say impairment of male fertility. Hadn't been checked. What? Now, why? But they did on female rats and rabbits. Now, anything that has something that says we don't even know, do you think they really don't know? Do you think they haven't evaluated it? Come on. When you evaluate something and you get a result that's not going to be, it's not going to be taken well from the free, from the land of the free, home of the brave citizens, then they discard that evaluation, because then they say, well, we don't know.
And here's the thing too, is honestly, I don't know any product in America that we're allowed to say, if it harms you, if it hurts you, you're completely immune.
Yeah.
You're completely immune. You have complete immunity. Like, what kind of marketing campaign is required to push something that they can't tell you is honestly going to not affect you? And if it does, you can't do anything about
It only works if everybody else takes it.
Yeah.
That's the most genius marketing campaign I've ever heard.
I also heard multiple doctors up there say that the reason why everybody has to get it is because of the immune compromise, like the kids who have cancer.
But it's causing immunocompromise.
And then the next one, it's causing cancer.
Yeah.
But then the next one, doctor, says we need to make sure that these kids with cancer are able to get vaccines.
But if it's causing,
which is it?
Right.
Which is it?
The other part of that is they're not even testing for immunity before you're getting the vaccination. You're not testing to see how the certain ingredients are going to affect the person. Everybody's individual biology is very different. So you can't give a one-size-fits-all product to the entire population. That's not how that works.
I want to back up for just a moment. I want to welcome our viewers. Coastal Conservative News with Allie and Michelle. We are happy to have our guest here. I want you to tell our viewers your first and last name and why it was so important for you to be here today.
Larry Downs Jr. and I have a website called Mission Obvious. Go to missionobvious.com, or you can get a lot of information. I'm talking about, you will hear depositions with Dr. Stanley Plotkin, who is I call him Plotkin. Yeah. He's been plotting for a long time. But anyways, you can go there. You get a lot of information on the vaccines, which I call corporate chemical vaccine injections. There's no other way. They're made by corporations. There are chemicals in them. They call them vaccines, and they're injected.
And they're also very opposite. So if you take formaldehyde, and you look at the FDA's recommendations for formaldehyde, it says that certain levels are acceptable within the human body. But then you look at the immunization ingredients where formaldehyde is listed, and it's 3 to 7 times more than what is required acceptable at the FDA.
And
so when you have these two companies, the CDC, or two agencies, the CDC and the FDA, working together, and they don't speak, but you give the pharmaceutical companies liability-free exemptions, who are you supposed to listen to? And then the government is saying, oh, it's recommended, but the schools are choosing to mandate it in order for you to access free education. So which one is it?
Right, exactly.
Well, don't forget the cumulative effects.
Yes.
There's a cumulative effect between all the poisons they're giving us, not only the corporate chemical vaccine injections to little babies and pregnant mothers now, but also all the preservatives and chemicals in our food. Even like chicken sandwiches now have like 30 to 50 chemical ingredients, man-made. But listen to this real quick. This is the Spike Vax. I'll show you it to you and just say, this is the Spike Vax that took me almost 3.5 years to get one that wasn't blank like the other one is, intentionally blank. So I go to 13.1 because they're all the same, but this one's kind of special. Listen to this one. Here it goes. It's under carcinogenesis, mutagenesis, and impairment of fertility. Spike Vax has not been evaluated for carcinogenic, mutagenic potential, or impairment of male fertility in animals. A developmental toxicity study was conducted in female rats. that received a vaccine formulation containing nucleoside modified messenger ribonucleic acid, mRNA, and other ingredients. And other ingredients. I'm reading this straight from it. That means that they have secret proprietary ingredients. The ones that they tell you about is horrible. Now, what else did they put in here that they're not telling you about? I can tell you one of them, HIV. Just a little bit. It works like a clamp on the protein. It just works like a little clamp. It's just a little bit of HIV, and then of course a whole bunch of broke up DNA fragments from aborted fetuses. There's no possible way that any critical thinking individual, no possible way, can read through this. It's impossible.
And comprehend it.
Go to the adverse reactions. There's risk. There cannot be force.
Right. Amen.
So here we're at the Department of Health meeting. This is their meeting December 12th here in Panama City Beach. What I want to make sure we understand is we've heard people up at the podium talking about how we have informed consent. This is a true, this is truly how we know we don't have informed consent. You can't take our children and tell us that we have to vaccinate them in order to put them in public school or in order to serve in the military or whatever, and genuinely not give them informed consent. We have no idea what this does to young people.
Is this informed consent? This is what you have for almost 3 years with your COVID vaccine, with your COVID corporate chemical vaccine injection. And then this is what I was able to receive after the fact. Look, what does that say right there? What does it say right there?
Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine mRNA.
mRNA. Yep.
You got it, Bree?
Now, this one right here is the exact same one.
Completely blank.
And if you really want to know, you go to
It
this.
says intentionally blank.
Intentionally blank. And there's a number. Here's the number. If you want to know, hold on, I'll show it to you right there. And there was doctors putting this out all along, and they kept getting censored and deplatformed and basically have their license threatened. They even had their license removed. And people told me, they said, oh, well, they must have done something wrong. I said, yeah, they did. They actually went against the machine, and they tried to throw a cog in the wheel, and they got ate up. And if everybody doesn't get behind this, and there's a lot of doctors who are just conditioned, they can't help themselves. They are. I had a friend of mine who's like, not the polio shot. I had to show him the actual numbers, 1952. I had to show him that the SV40 was in it. I had to show him Dr. Jack Cruz, who is a neurosurgeon, who was there in New Orleans at Tulane Medical University, at Ochsner Medical Institute, and Dr. Ochsner, and all of them knew it was coming from the polio shot. The SV40 is the most carcinogenic, cancer-causing agent on this whole planet, and they put it into the COVID shots. It's in there. Dr. Kieran found it. He's a molecular biologist.
Let me ask you, and then I'd love to get your opinion on this. So we sat through about 2.5 hours of public comment.
Yeah.
We want to get you on record too. Stick around. We want to get you on record. What do you guys think as far as sitting through 2.5 hours of public comment? What do you think it made an impact? Do you think they're going to double down on what the Surgeon General's recommendations were, which is to not have mandates in the state of Florida?
No. What they are going to do is they are going to double down and triple down and quadruple down on getting more of these people who are under the medical industrial complex and the pharmaceutical corporations and the corporate vaccine chemical vaccine manufacturers. They are going to get them. The lady that was up there who had the prosthetics, she's from New York. Doesn't live here, came here, testified up there. She has no children. I asked her all these questions while I had my camera rolling, so I ain't lying. Now, why would somebody who lives in New York come here just for this and be talking to all of them, all of those up there on the head? She just back and forth. That's why I said, do you work for the health department? She goes, no. And then she said she came here on her own money. Now, I'm just saying that I don't put nothing past
Yeah.
Nothing past this $1 trillion industry. It's not a billion. It's a trillion. It's trillions.
Well, there was also brought up during public comment, somebody had asked why there's only one of these hearings and why in Panama City Beach.
Yeah.
We are up here in the Panhandle. This might not be a large reflection of South Florida, Southwest Florida. So make
Freedom. You cannot go wrong with freedom. Somehow, most of the citizens in this country, they have been conditioned to believe that freedom is the enemy and it's dangerous and it's unsafe. And it is. And freedom is dangerous and dirty, and that's the way I like it.
Thank you
Well,
so
give
much.
your website one more time.
Give your website
Oh.
where we can find you. Yeah.
Missionobvious.com. Or you can go on YouTube, Larry for Real. Second word is one word, FORREAL. And you can also go on there and find some obscured stuff on American Trades Association, because I'm a fourth generation plumber. And if we don't get some more men, I think these vaccines are causing boys not to become men. They're stuck in male purgatory. It's messing up their hormones, their hormone system, their immune system, and their cognitive brain function. They're not becoming physically strong and mentally strong men. They're stuck in this male purgatory, and we need men.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. Brought you here to the Department of Health meeting today.
Yeah, Dr. Avery Brinkley Jr., and I'm affiliated with a lot of the medical freedom movements here in Florida for the last 5 years. I semi-retired as a radiologist about 11 years ago and have shifted sideways from that into everything that happened with COVID. And now seeing what's going on with the vaccine. I mean, Dr. Latipo and I actually meet periodically at my request or his request. So there's some limited interaction, but it's virtual meetings. And I had one with him a month ago about the possibility of passing a bill or proposing a bill that we're writing. Mary Helms has been involved in that, John Hallman, and we have it. It's going to be, and we have a representative to push it forward for clean blood donations.
Oh, that's
blood that
Do you
is.
have a Senate? Do you have a Senate sponsor?
No, we don't, not
Okay,
yet.
okay. We'll try to help you with that.
But spike-free protein, or using the antibodies.
Yes.
But there's work that is being done, which is confidential, but it's in South Florida, where they're going to, people like Dr. Corey and Dr. The doctor in the villages, Dr. Vila.
Yes.
They do check for spike antigen, and that's just not universal at this point, but it will be at some point. So in our bill, it's to allow the Department of Health and Dr. Latipo or the Surgeon General to implement this and update it as necessary, and hopefully we can get the legislature to pass this. If you ask him whether he would allow his son to receive blood transfusion, would he have concerns about the possibility of contamination with E. coli DNA, which was used in the production by Pfizer and some of the Moderna shots, which aren't vaccines, by the way, because they don't prevent infection or transmission.
Amen.
And then the other thing is the SV40 tumor enhancer, which your other gentleman brought up. We're seeing a lot of cancers. We know infertility, and particularly miscarriages
100%.
are documented. They're up hugely in women who've had these things. Now, this meeting actually was not about COVID, really. It was more about taking 4 of the vaccines that can be under administrative review by Dr. Latipo and the Department of Health, take them off the required list of childhood vaccines. We know that pneumococcal vaccine, all 4 versions of that, actually increases, based on 2.23 million people that were the data, increase in hospitalizations and deaths by anywhere from 80 to 90%. And people who were vaccinated with these. The unvaxxed, some of them were vulnerable, but not nearly as many, which is interesting.
That's a 90% fail rate.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
it's
want to
huge.
ask you real quick,
Yeah.
if you could just let me know what you think is going to be the outcome of this meeting and where we can find you, where they can, our viewers can find you to help support what you're doing.
Well, I don't know what the outcome of the meeting is. It's very balanced, I think, between different groups. And I sort of share, I'm not like an anti-vaxxer, to be honest. I'm just not. But there are certain shots that I really have a problem with. And I think that mandates, you can argue about them all day, but I think that the current data that the group of 260 doctors in the group I'm in, which is C21X at Google Groups, of virologists, Dr. Harvey Reish, Dr. Peter McCullough, all that has been reviewed. Dr. Hulsher, Nicholas Hulsher, he's the one that just on October 22nd disseminated the study about 2.23 million people who were, with pneumococcal shots being hospitalized and dying.
Let us know, because I know we're
so,
about
so
to
what's
leave the
going
room.
to
Where can we find you to get more information about what you do and how to support you?
Well, you can email me. Actually, Sherry Weinstein.
I do
I'm
know
very
Dr. Sherry
Sherry and
Weinstein.
I and Dr. Douglas are the ones who put out Duty to Dissent, which is a Substack.
Okay.
He's the writer. I'm an editorial consultant, and Sherry shares in a lot of that with some
Wonderful.
others.
Guys, make sure you check all that out.
But my email, I'll give you an email, is ABBJRM as in Mary, D as in David at Gmail. And if I get junk mail, it will immediately go to spam.
Wonderful. Thank you for what you're doing. But if you have questions, you know the guy to reach out to. Guys, also, we are blessed to be in Venice, Florida with We the People Clinic. So make sure you check them out as well. Guys, we'll have more CCN in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Coastal Conservative News. We're still here in Panama City Beach at the Hyatt for the Department of Health meeting. A good turnout. It was a packed room. Go ahead and give us your name. And I know you gave some testimony today, so let our viewers know what you had to say.
My name is Marissa Bryant Parental. I'm an RN. I have 3 degrees. One is a graduate in medicine, science of medicine, concentration in forensic medicine. And my testimony was basically just, I watched my kids suffer from vaccines. I am highly allergic to the vaccines that I've had to take. And I've witnessed parents bringing their children into the ER post-vaccination and being gaslit that it couldn't possibly be a vaccine. It had to be something else causing their seizures, their fevers, their recurrent ear infections post-vaccination.
Yep.
And so I started to dig for myself and started to find out that we actually don't have any data to back up any of the shots that we currently put on the schedule. So I started to turn away from mainstream medicine.
Now, we did have a good representation, I think, in there of whether you're pharmaceutical lobbyist in there or even those in the medical field. Did you feel like, I'll ask both of you this, did you feel like your testimony was well received, or that at least it didn't fall on deaf ears?
No, I don't. They were laughing at us. And that was fine because that's how they treat us in the hospital. And it was one reason why I did not speak out sooner about the things that I knew, because I knew that I was going to be ostracized. And I finally just got to a point, especially with COVID, that I was done with it and I didn't care anymore, and people deserve to know the truth. And if it takes me having to get, my feelings hurt a little bit, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. We commend your courage. There's not a lot of people that are willing to step out in the fray like that. Fortunately, we know a lot of them, but they're pretty much far few in between. So what would your advice be to someone that is struggling in the same position that you were in?
One of the things that helped me was actually Dr. Suzanne Humphreys. I came across one of her podcasts that she did and her book, Dissolving Illusions. And once I found out that I wasn't alone, I felt more comfortable, more confident in being able to speak the truth.
Oh, so good. That's amazing. And that's part of what we're doing here, even with Coastal Conservative News. You can see we are still in the hallway. Very little media coverage on this meeting. No media coverage really on what's being said in there, and certainly no follow-up interviews. That's why we need you to keep it locked here.
Well, I do have one more question for you. As a mom, how would you encourage other moms that are witnessing what we have witnessed as collectively as moms who are here advocating for medical freedom and parental rights? What kind of advice would you give to a mom who's being gaslit in a doctor's office or in a hospital?
I tell all my parents, you have to have your own convictions, and that's what's going to give you the confidence to stand up to a doctor. These doctors walk around and act as if they are the only authority on what we do with our bodies and the healthcare, and they're not the only authority. In fact, what we found out is they're very little studied on things like vaccines. They actually don't know the data, but they get up and they parrot the same line like they did today: safe and effective. Where are the studies? You can't give them to me, so don't say it.
Exactly. That's so true, guys. And that's why we want to encourage you to reach out to us at contact@coastalconservativenews.com. If you have a story about potential vaccine injury, where was a surgery of yours delayed back during COVID because you weren't COVID vaccinated, we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear your story, especially if you work in the medical industry. We get a lot of doctors and people that have worked in the hospital, frontline nurses, that are now coming out and saying, look, we knew something was going on, something's wrong, we should at least have dialogue. We'll be right back with more interviews here on CCN. All right, guys, Allie and Michelle here with Coastal Conservative News. More interviews coming from the Department of Health meeting that took place regarding school mandates. Do you want to see all these, vaccinations mandated so that if your kid wants to go into public school, wants to do daycare? I mean, I think we've had a lot of strong opinions here. So I want you guys to give me your name.
Eric Baker.
Eric Baker, and you spoke today, so tell our viewers a little bit about what you had to say.
Just pretty much keeping it in the parents' rights to be able to mandate whether their child is going to get their vaccine or not, and not separate church and state, separate the whole medical field from education. It's really unfair and not right for anybody to dictate what your child does or doesn't do.
Absolutely. Okay, give us your name, because I know you also gave testimony today. And what did you think about what took place in there?
My name is Rick Fry. I was pretty frustrated. I had to leave the meeting because they were laughing at the testimony. And I've been doing it about 20 years. And I went through the same kind of things where I warned people and they didn't listen. And I have two daughters from two different, I was married before. They have two completely different parents, two completely different sets of DNA. I argued with both mothers when they were pregnant at the same time, as my wife was pregnant at the time. Both of them didn't listen. Both of them now have nonverbal autistic children. Oh my gosh. Those guys are paid to come in here. They get bonuses for what they're doing. They're not really showing any proper safety studies because they don't have them. They don't do double-blind randomized placebo studies. And it's obviously just about freedom too. You can take all the shots you want, but I should be able to. I don't have my kid in public school and any of that stuff for that reason. I don't like the agendas, and I don't like the coercion, and I don't like the programming that goes on, and so.
One of the things that I was thinking about, and I'll get your guys' opinion on this. So, we have this broad school choice now in the state of Florida where you get your tax dollars to be able to go to the school of your choice. And I didn't hear it in there, but I wonder, and maybe Allie, you can talk about this too. I wonder if that will permeate this vaccine mandate in order to get your tax dollars to go, because this could potentially affect your homeschool students, your charter school students. I didn't hear any really scientific based studies, any kind of the numbers to support that we need vaccines. Did you guys feel heard in there?
No, I feel it was already set. Everything was already set what they were going to do. We just had to voice our opinion for, public safety or something. I don't know.
How about you?
Well, they don't do the studies, and the studies that have been done where it's vax versus unvax, it's always shown that the unvaxxed kids are healthier. There's one that was a couple years ago where they were vaccinating remote tribes, and they were able to vaccinate one tribe, but they weren't able to get to the other one. They realized they had a control group that they could go back and study it, and sure enough, there was a small decrease in the initial problems, but over the long term, all their kids were far less healthy. They had a bunch more problems. So, the long-term health effects are really undeniable. That's why we have such a high mortality rate. That's why so many people are dying suddenly right now. And, they've been keeping it quiet forever and hiding it forever. But thankfully, people are coming up and realizing what's going on.
So now that we have a Surgeon General who is along the lines with Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kennedy, who aligns with medical freedom and parental rights within the medical industry, do you think that what we're doing, as far as what you've been doing for 20 years, what I've been doing for 10 years, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but speaking up, do you think it's making a difference, or do you think there still needs to be some kind of outreach to our parents and to the public to make sure that, one, the studies are conducted in the right proper way, and two, that there is proper informed consent?
Yeah, well, it obviously does. It is much easier because when I first started, everybody thought I was crazy,
right? And
now I get paid to talk about stuff like this. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's gone a long way from where I first started. But yeah, it's every time you speak out, you make a difference. Every time you do something, you make a difference. Like the silence is consent. So you have to speak out, especially when you see something wrong. That's why I was so frustrated with them laughing about it. It's like, you're supposed to be a pediatrician. You're supposed to care. And like these people are telling you their children were injured, and you think it's like, I'm trying not to cry. And you think it's funny.
Right.
Like I had to leave the room. Like I was about to start cussing people out.
Well, a lot of it is fear projection and conjecture, because they don't have the facts to back up what they're saying.
Right,
and so the only thing they can really do is laugh at you.
Right.
But that's extremely unprofessional in my opinion.
Yeah, same thing. Everybody should have a voice, definitely. And you should speak it if you don't feel something's right.
Well, and let me just say one more thing too, because I said a lot about the measles thing. That's all based on PCR tests, which they're being run at high cycles of amplification, which produces false positives. It's the same thing they did during COVID.
Yes.
American kids don't die from the measles.
Right.
Kids in third world countries die from the measles because they don't have proper sanitation and water and healthcare. Like, that's what changes, not vaccines. All those diseases they tell you were eliminated by vaccines were all fallen before the vaccines were introduced. And the study and the stats all prove that, but they don't want you to know that because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they get paid to coerce your kids. And we have all these kids who are sick and dying, and it's just, it drives me crazy. I hate stuff where they hurt kids. I just don't.
Well, and so I'll say this. I think just hearing you gentlemen there speaking, I know Allie and I spoke, hearing everybody that spoke in there, it's like courage is contagious. And so that's part of why we want to amplify your voices
Especially
here.
the male voice, because I've been doing this for 10 years and I've only really seen a bunch of women. Moms coming in that travel from everywhere, that will stand and talk and shake while they're talking. But to see men and fathers step up in the fray and say, look, you're not going to do this to my child. Absolutely not. Full stop. We're not doing this. I love seeing it. So thank you guys so much for what you're doing.
Now,
Men are supposed to be the protectors.
Amen. Be the protectors. Now, do either of you guys do you want to give any kind of public information where people can follow you? Do you have Substacks or anything like that you want to give?
Most of my pages have been banned.
Then you're doing something right.
I was targeted by the Atlanta Council in 2018. There's a Rolling Stone article about it called "Who Will Fix Facebook," and we were taken out before the yeah.
Pandemic.
Yeah.
Amazing. How about you, sir?
Eric, ERIK.Baker.900 on IG.
Okay. Very good. Wonderful. Thank you guys for so much. We'll be right back with more Coastal Conservative News in a moment. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed all of those interviews. But now, next, we have our very own Rajdor Asami coming up with the Suncoast Community segment right here.
From the heart of Marietta, Georgia, comes a tribute to the spirit of liberty. Liberty Cigars, where history meets craftsmanship. Each cigar tells a story. The Founders Collection honors the visionaries who shaped a nation. The President's House Collection celebrates the leaders who steered it. And the Naval Series salutes the heroes who defended it. Handcrafted with precision, each blend mirrors the essence of its namesake. From the boldness of George Washington to the elegance of Thomas Jefferson. Indulge in a moment of reflection. Light a Liberty cigar and savor the legacy. Discover your story at libertycigars.com, because every great nation deserves a great cigar. Liberty Cigars, smoke the history. And don't forget to use promo code OPENMIC for 10% off your order.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for watching this community segment. What an exciting time we are living in. Yes, indeed. And so this segment today, we're going to be focusing on emerging strategies, which you might think are new, but actually are not new, that grassroots volunteers are taking on. The reason they're taking on is they have gathered a lot of momentum, and now volunteers are wanting to up their game and actually begin to compete more effectively with special interest groups that get a lot of money from big industry. They want to compete more effectively with lobbyists who basically shell out a bunch of money and use that money to severely influence politicians. And the reason I say severely is one of the big things that politicians have to do today is they got to be always worried about how they get reelected. They got to be always worried about how they can bring resources in their community. And the way our country has kind of devolved in certain aspects is that industries with a big checking account who have specific objectives that they want are able to use a lot of money to influence politicians to go their way. So you might find a politician whose salary might be $20,000 or $60,000 or $120,000 is making decisions that move potentially millions, if not billions of dollars. What am I talking about? Well, if you've been watching our channels recently, you would have known that one of these politicians, a senator in Florida, who himself is a developer, okay, get this, sponsored a bill which would eventually become law. And this bill, if it becomes law, will move authority from the county to the capital of Florida on making decisions about what happens in the county. So a developer wants to come and look, developers are good. They bring in a lot of infrastructure, a lot of progress. But when developers are only just looking at their bottom line, what they have done sometimes is they build a bunch of houses, for example, beautiful houses. It's great for the community. But do they look at the impact of the construction on drainage? Not all the time. Do they look at the impact of what they bring into the county in terms of more families on schools, availability of schools? Not all the time. And so what end up happening is a lot more concrete, which is not always bad, but it displaces drainage. And now houses that have been there for decades who have never been flooded get flooded. So these are the types of things that need to be checked and managed at the county level, because those are the people that know what's going on there. But this developer, a senator, wanted to write this bill, and if it passed, instead of these developers having to convince county authority on what they want to do in their counties, in fact, instead of them having to convince local folks like you and I who live in the county about the merits of their plan, they could just go to Tallahassee, pay off a couple of politicians, get this thing approved, and they are able to then proceed. And your authority, your local power, your local say-so has been completely neutralized. And so this is an example of how special interest groups are basically rewriting some of the parts of how our country operates. And so volunteers are saying, look, this is not good. This is government of the people, by the people, for the people, not of industry, for industry, by lobbyists. No, that's not what our government's about. And so to talk about some of these new exciting trends, I'm so happy to have with me over today, Mike Levine. And Mike, thanks for being on the call with me. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Raj.
Oh, you're so
I
welcome.
love your comments, and I have a lot to say about all of that stuff. I'm sure we don't have time today, but I drill down on this stuff every day. So let's get going here.
Then we need to bring you back again. So before we get started, Mike, you are a successful business owner. You're a broker. You know what it takes to motivate people. You've done it for years. You've built organizations for years. Tell us about how you bring some of that common sense expertise into the activism to help people like you and I and other volunteer groups be more effective in having our voices not just heard, but acted on.
Well, you know, I showed you and I've submitted to you a spreadsheet with my plan. It happens to be on the TV behind me right now. But to specifically address what you're asking me about right now, a part of my plan, I'm saying to you that, you know, the grassroots organizations around the state of Florida are run by volunteers. Think about it. Oftentimes, a volunteer will drive an hour to get to a meeting, spend 90 minutes or 2 hours in a meeting, and then drive home another hour. So you're looking at, 100, 150 miles sometimes in round trip travel. That costs them money. Nobody pays them to go to these meetings. They put in their time. And then at the meeting, we give them a lot of assignments. We tell them to go knock on doors, make phone calls, spread collateral material around to voters and things like that. So these volunteers are expending a lot of resource of time and money and never get compensated themselves. So to address your question, your immediate question is, I'm proposing to all the grassroots organizations in Florida, why don't we start encouraging our volunteers to take collateral material, whether it's hard copy printed material or electronic material, distribute it to their sphere of influence, voters, and then encourage voters to contribute not to a candidate, but to an issue or a cause. And then when the voter or citizen of the state contributes to the cause, we give a stipend over to the volunteer who generated the revenue, Raj.
It makes so much what you're talking about. And the reason it makes so much sense is people care about many things in our republic, not just the example I just talked about with regard to the land development, but they care about how the election process is managed. They care about whether or not our government can force, against your will, you to inject a vaccine into your infant if you think that you haven't been given enough evidence that that vaccine is safe. They care about making sure that our elderly are cared for and taken care of. So there are a lot of things that our people care for and are willing to take action on. But to your point, volunteers are busy. They've got a life. especially on the conservative side. A lot of them are working. They're not on unemployment. They're hard workers. They got people that they care for, their kids. And so in order to actually level this up, this idea of a stipend really helps a volunteer who wants to be productive in talking to their friends, their network, and raising money, because there's an incentive for them. And Mike, this is not a radical idea. The idea of people being able to be compensated for the time they spend in raising money. It's currently being done with campaign consultants, these lobbyists, right? Is that the case?
Of course. I mean, take a look at it, right? Every political organization. Are you kidding me? We have degrees at universities in political science. Where do you think these graduates get jobs? They get jobs at these political committees, political parties, candidates, all that stuff. I mean, the government at every city council, every county commission, every state house, and in the federal government, all of these agencies are populated with political science students that get big salaries, right? I mean, it's amazing. Anybody that ever takes the time to look into what is your congressman's payroll budget, you'll be flabbergasted to see how much money goes out in payroll. And of course, those compensation models can be structured in a lot of different ways, as you're pointing out, Raj. So yeah, I would suggest to you, like, for example, it's very commonplace for a aggregator or a bundler to get compensated based on, look, our university provosts get paid based on the amount of money they raise, right? Everybody gets, everybody in America is a commissioned salesman. That's what the world, I mean, that's our dominant feature of America, is that we are, salespeople who are compensated based on performance. So that is ubiquitous in the political environment, Raj.
And it's probably one of the reasons why the entities you just talked about are always getting their way. And when it comes to volunteers, what they're talking about is valid. That's the important thing. What they care for is valid. It's not like these volunteers are looking for something radical or unreasonable. Is it reasonable to want to have a reliable election system? Is it reasonable to make sure that only U.S. citizens vote? Is it reasonable that the voter rolls are maintained? Is it reasonable? How about this one, Mike? How about this one? Is it reasonable that the vision of the United States president himself, the person that more people elected and voted for, right? Is it reasonable that when he says we need to move away from election machines, is it reasonable that when volunteers say, yeah, state legislators, we need to move away from machines? Isn't that reasonable? Isn't that something that needs to happen? And right now, what is happening right now is there's a movement in Florida, of all places, to almost double the number of machines being used. They're like giving the finger to the president himself. And there was just a recent article that was done about an organization, Defend Florida. I'm obviously part of Defend Florida. And this article was, I don't know what to make of it. I think the reporter is a genuine person. I've had many conversations with this reporter. She actually almost apologized to me because she said, "Hey, Raj, I'm writing this article, and I know you're not going to like things about it, but I hope we can keep talking." And obviously, we're an open book; we're always talking. But the article was so. I think the reporter probably did a good job, and her boss must have tweaked it, because the article's using just loaded words like labeling citizens as conspiracy theorists, dismissing citizen activism as misinformation. They're quoting partisan operatives who are influenced by these special interest groups as experts, when they're completely biased and influenced by the people that are funding them, which is the election industry. And so volunteers are like, yeah, this is we can do better. And so I think the reception to your idea is going to be powerful, because imagine if a volunteer goes and they have a palm card and they've got their issue. Let's just say, hey, we don't think we need to double the number of election machines, and we'd like you, neighbor, to donate what you like to this campaign, so that we can fight the special interest groups that are trying to double the number of machines in Florida. And they have a palm card, and they're going, and they're those who want to who feel, yeah, that makes sense. We think the president is smart. We think he knows what he's doing. We think when the president says get away from election machines, we think we need to listen to him, not these bought off politicians. I want to donate to you. Here's $5, or here's $20, or here's $100 or $500. If the volunteer is going to take their own time to do that, and they get a piece, right? Maybe that's a good idea. And can you imagine what would happen if volunteers did that in a city or in a county, and the volunteers use that money to use by ads, new marketing, press, to draw people's attention to their own legislator in that county that wants to double the number of machines. Right, that could be exciting.
No, it is exciting, but so yeah, and there's a few other components to my plan that support what we're talking about right now, and hopefully at some point, we'll be able to walk through this thing in more detail. But yeah, this is certainly a big component of it, and I'm saying to you that when we get all 67 counties on the same page, and I'm suggesting that this group of volunteers that we're referring to right now could easily analyze all of the legislation coming out of their legislative delegations in each county, and then summarize, and then basically report on it to a state board that prioritizes and then comes up with legislative priorities for every legislative session, and then hammer these elected officials from all 67 counties with the same talking points on the same issues at the same time. Pretty soon, leadership is going to take a subordinate role to the voice of the people in the state of Florida, Raj.
And when Mike says leadership, this is really important, because when you elect your legislator, you work hard, you go through your whole thing in your county, in your region, and you elect your person. You need to know, my friends, that when your person, you elect Bob, and Bob goes to Tallahassee, Bob, the leadership, the Speaker of the House, to be clear, the Senate President, to be clear, ranking politicians will have a sit down with Bob, and we'll say, Bob, welcome to Tallahassee. We know your people voted for you. We know that you got a whole campaign that you ran on and you were successful, and that's why you're here. But let me tell you something, Bob. You're not going to work on your stuff. You're going to work on what we tell you to work on. That's actually correct. How it works. And so the Senate President...
Let me take your head off, Raj. Let me just take your head off right now. You ready for this?
Go ahead, Mike, do it.
Okay, so the freshman class, after the first legislative session, the freshman class elects the speaker designate, right? Or the president of the Senate designate. Well, as soon as the freshman class is inaugurated, they start getting phone calls out of the existing Speaker of the House or President of the Senate's office saying, hey, guys, we know that you're going to be electing the speaker designate for your class, okay? But we're telling you that this is who we want to be the speaker designate. And if you don't elect the speaker designate, who won't serve for 6 years later, right? Then you're going to have a really hard time, Raj, getting funding for infrastructure in your county, in your district, right? This is extortion in my view. Right. I'm serious, Raj. It's extortion.
It's crazy.
In my view, it's extortion. Yeah.
And so, most people.
Yeah. We have to be able to effectively, I'm going to use the word control that dynamic, Raj.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Guys, there's so much here that most people have no idea about what you just said. So it's a little bit like a cartel. It's not representative government. It's industry running the show. And so I think there's a lot of excitement about what Mike's talking about. Before we go, Mike's got a phenomenal website that you guys need to visit, get more information about what he's doing. Mike, I can see it there, the Citizens Lobbyist. What is the website that you have?
The best place to find information, because I do a live stream with my friend Chuck Benoit twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and we publish all that to YouTube. So it's if you go on your YouTube channel and search Restoring Our American Republic, and then use the acronym ROAR, you'll get it. And you can see we've done about 50 videos or so, and we talk about these things in many of those videos, but you'll certainly get a clear understanding of my personal politics, which is a grassroots, we the people, bottom up, government serves the people don't serve the government, conservative point of view. And I cover a lot of this stuff with my friend Chuck twice a week. And you can also, if you're on Facebook, you can just follow us at the same Restoring Our American Republic on Facebook as well, Raj.
Fantastic. There you have it, folks. Please do check out those two websites. I love the name. Incidentally, Mike, the marketing company, the production company that puts this show on CCN is called Roar Marketing. And Roar, this was before you and I met. Roar stands for Rescue Our American Republic. So we're here trying to rescue it. Mike's over there trying to restore it. And you guys are watching and you guys are making it happen. So this is fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for packing this all in. I wish we could speak further. There is so much more. We got to break you back on.
We'll do it again
as soon as we can. We went way past the time limit that we had, but there was just so much to unpack when we barely covered. Friends, please make sure you check out those two websites. You will see the URLs to Mike's websites at the bottom over here. And back over to you, Michelle and Allie.
All right, guys. After this, we have Camden Bedinghouse with Cam in the Moment.
They call masculinity toxic, but the truth is, God calls it sacred. My name is Camden Bedinghouse, and I've seen how the world takes what God meant for us as men and turn it into this thing called toxic masculinity. I wrote Fearless Masculinity because my generation's been lied to. We've been told to sit down, stay quiet, and apologize for being men. This world doesn't need weaker men. It needs men who are willing to stand up and become fearless. Men who protect their families, serve their communities, and live without fear. Fearless Masculinity is a roadmap to discover who God truly made you to be as a man. It's about rediscovering purpose, building courage, and stepping into who God truly calls you to be. If you're tired of being called toxic just for being a man, and you're tired of shrinking back, tired of silence, this book is for you. Are you ready to step up? If you are, go to CamdenBettinghouse.com to get more information and become a fearless man of God. Welcome to Cam in the Moment here on Coastal Conservative News. My name is Cam, and here are your week's biggest moments coming up. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the segment here on Coastal Conservative News. Like I said, I'm Camden, and today I want to talk about the young perspective. I'm 22. The young perspective here in Florida on the property tax elimination debate. As you guys may know, Governor DeSantis has come out in favor of eliminating property tax of homestead, and this has gotten some, heat even in the conservative movement. Both sides have their own views on this stuff. But what is the young perspective on this? Where does it come in for someone my age, looking at housing and looking at my future and where I'm going to go from here, maybe wanting to own my own house one day? How does this affect me and you and your children, if you have children and grandchildren, in today's world in Florida? Because, proponents of it say that it's long overdue, that homeowners deserve to not have to pay taxes on the thing they already own. And others warn that there could be some serious side effects and unwanted effects, especially for renters and, like I said, first-time buyers, and even maybe small businesses if the state offsets the loss of revenue with certain changes that we'll get into in a little bit. But what I want to discuss is what could go right and what could go wrong. There's two sides, and just give you a young person's perspective on the entire issue. So what's going on? There's a proposal right now, and we need to figure out what's driving it, right? Because right now in Florida, property taxes are a major source of funding for local governments like schools, police, fire, roads, libraries, parks, and other community services. A lot of that comes from property tax. As you know, there's no state income tax here in Florida, so that already takes that out of the picture. So you're going to have to get some kind of money to run this stuff. But the push to eliminate property taxes has gained a lot of steam here in 2025. Maybe people are thinking that there's other ways we can, raise the money, other ways to get the money here in the state instead of taxing people that own their homes. And supporters, including lawmakers, argue that property taxes have become even burdensome, some say, especially with increasing home values and rising assessments, making home ownership less affordable because you got to keep paying those taxes. And not everyone likes that. And I could understand that. We all don't, even, most Florida citizens love what Governor DeSantis has come in and done for the state. And we like the less government, more individual style. Even me as a young person, I'm a conservative. I want lower, smaller government. This is all my opinion here. And sometimes the taxes may get in the way, and we don't really want that, but there's got to be something with this funding. So the idea is that Florida residents should be able to truly own their own homes without continuously being taxed, right? Listen to what Governor DeSantis said last week about this.
So here's what our proposal is, and we're still working through the details because we want it. It needs to work. We're going to have strong police, strong. No one's been stronger on law enforcement than me. Strong schools. We're going to do that, but we're going to focus on Florida homeowners homesteaded. So like Sean, when he used to have his condo in Naples, he was still a New York resident. They can still tax that, right? But if you're a Florida resident, you get to pick your primary residence, your homestead. We think you ought to own that free and clear of the government. That's a fraction of the overall property tax revenue. So about 70% is non-homestead residents or non-residents, and then commercial. So we're in a unique situation. So much of our taxes are paid by people that visit. And so we have a chance to give historic relief for Florida. We're going to be continue to work on this. We're working with all the stakeholders. We'll work with the legislature. They got to put it on the ballot in Florida, and the voters have to approve it. This is all local. The state does not control property tax, but we're in a position where we can help lead an effort that will give relief to people.
So there you see, Governor DeSantis makes it very clear that there will still be funding getting to the schools and getting to the police, in that we get so much money from people who visit anyway that it doesn't make sense to tax people on their homes. However, like I said, property taxes are the backbone for a lot of local services, so cutting them out means we got to replace that with something. I know that a lot of the money could come from visitors and tourism because Florida's, high up in that, but there's still some left over. I mean, there's a lot of money that comes from taxes, so there's some kind of replacement that's going to be done, and we want to make sure that it doesn't harm us more than benefit us. One of the most discussed replacement options is increasing sales tax or broadening its base, which I gotta say I'm not a big fan of. A big sales tax hike could disproportionately hit lower and middle income households because they spend a higher proportion of their income on consumption. And this is where it gets me, is that small businesses in particular, retail, services, local shops, small businesses in general, a higher tax could drag down the demand. And if customers see costs going up and everyday goods and services going up, they may cut back on their spending, which can hurt business revenue. And Florida has been one of the most pro-small business states in the country. We saw from COVID-19, Governor DeSantis kept the businesses up and running, which was awesome, as much as he could. And that, frankly, saved a lot of businesses. And we want to keep the pro-small business aspect that attracts so many entrepreneurs here to Florida, because that's what makes this country so great in the first place. The American dream. Florida is a good example of what that looks like. So here are the 4 current proposals in the Florida House, because there's been a few different ones that they're talking about in the House. HJR 201 is the first one we'll discuss, and this is about eliminating property taxes. House Joint Resolution 201, which would establish a homestead exemption for all non-school property taxes. And then it says, in addition, the amendment would prohibit local governments from reducing their law enforcement funding, which all 4 of these proposals say that at the end. But this one's about the homestead exemption. HJR 205, which is property tax exemptions for seniors, says it would exempt residents ages 65 and over from paying non-school taxes on their homes. And then the same thing about law enforcement. HJR 209, property insurance relief, says increases homestead exemptions for non-school property taxes by $100,000. So an increase, but not an elimination. And then it says, however, this only applies if the property is subject to a comprehensive multi-peril insurance policy. You guys are going to have to do your own research on that. But there's one more. There's HJR 211, accrued tax benefits, which says it would allow the full value of the accrued benefit from special limitations on homestead property tax assessments to be transferred to a new homestead for non-school levies. And same thing about the law enforcement again. So you're seeing that there's a few different proposals, one aimed at seniors, one aimed at reducing, one aimed at just the full homestead exemption. But Governor DeSantis has said that he believes we should consolidate all of this into one proposal for the best chances of passing. Because if you don't know, once they figure out the right proposals and whatever they're going to put onto the House floor, they will all vote on that. And if it passes there, eventually in the next election cycle in 2026, we would see a referendum on the ballot, which means you can vote, and it has to be a super majority to take effect. It can't be just a simple majority because this is a local issue. So if it goes onto the ballot, there has to be a super majority, 60% approval, a yes vote to pass. So some analyses warn that eliminating property taxes could actually cause home prices to spike. Estimates suggesting an immediate increase of 7 to 9% in home values. So again, that there's pros and cons to all this stuff. We got to be careful before we really make a decision. And that would make home ownership more expensive for first-time buyers. I'm a young man and a Floridian, and I want to make sure I can afford to buy my own home one day. I know it won't be immediate and that it's hard work, and it needs to be hard work. It should be. But we want to make it possible. I still want to be able to own my home, and I want other people to be able to do that. So we don't want to completely offset the taxes with nothing, and then people are going to have a harder time owning homes. That's just the truth of some of this. Renters who don't directly pay property taxes likely wouldn't benefit from the elimination, but meanwhile, they could face higher costs across the board if sales taxes were the solution that goes into it to fix the problem. Because those resolutions, the House bills we were looking at, are not actually to fix the solution. That's just to get the property tax eliminated or whatever. But we still got to figure out how to compensate for all the lost money. So, like I said again, I'm not for increasing the sales tax here because we have a really good sales tax rate, and we don't want to just completely push the burden onto other people. We want to actually just make it the best we can. And like DeSantis said, we have so much money from visitors that maybe we don't have to do as much, but that's something up for interpretation. But look, it's easy to see why eliminating them sounds appealing. Less taxes, less stress, more cash in people's pockets, more ownership, which I am super in favor of ownership. But we have to make sure we're looking at what keeps local government running. Like DeSantis said, the police, the schools, the infrastructure, and things that affect small businesses rely on some of this stuff. So we have to be very strategic about what we do. Now, let me add this before we go. I'm 22, and I'm looking at this from a perspective of someone of the next generation. You guys might be a little bit older than me, looking at this from the instant, oh, yes, that sounds good for us right now to not have to pay taxes on these homes, which I agree with. But we're students. We're early in our careers. So eliminating property taxes sounds great, but it doesn't immediately help the majority of Gen Z and young millennials who want to eventually purchase their homes. All I'm saying is that we got to be very careful what solution we choose to fix the money that we're losing. Maybe it's tourism, maybe it's sales tax, maybe whatever it is, we got to be very careful. And if anything, a big sales tax increase hits us first as young people because we're already paying more of our income towards daily expenses and gas and groceries and clothing and eating and stuff. All the things that a higher sales tax would make more expensive. That's all I'm saying. I do want homeowners to get some relief, and young people could feel the opposite about it if the higher costs everywhere except housing goes against them, which we don't even own our houses yet. So eliminating them, has its pros and cons. We'll see what happens. We're going to keep you updated here on Coastal Conservative News, but we want to really focus on the affordability in Florida, right? We want to make sure we're able to afford the things we need so that we can eventually move into not having to pay taxes on these properties forever. I agree with DeSantis there. It makes sense. We just have to make the strategy make sense with the plan. So when we talk about this, we got to look for the right solutions that help us move forward and not backwards as a state and as a country and locally. We want the power to be to the local government, and I don't want it to be a full-on disaster. We want to make sure we do the right thing here. But that's my contention. Anyway, if you have any thoughts, you can feel free to reach out to me and let me know your opinion on this. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you agree with it. Comment on the videos. Help us learn what you're thinking as a citizen here in Florida. And talk to me personally at Camden Trey B. You can definitely reach out, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. But if you want more from Coastal Conservative News, make sure you follow us. Give us a follow. It helps so much. Share with your friends and like the videos because we want to keep bringing the real news here in Florida without all the stuff that you see from the mainstream media and other sources. We want to be the place to get your news. So help us out in pushing this forward to make sure we can all do the same thing. Is transparency is key. We want to keep pushing that. So thank you for joining me today on Cam in the Moment. I'll see you guys next time right here next week. I'll see you then.
Thank you, Camden, for that wonderful reporting. Next up, right now, we've got Kevin Gamble with Faith in Focus.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
We are here to get an IV.
An IV. I heard you have an IV room?
Yeah, absolutely. You just head right back this way.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Knock, knock. Hello. Hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Sarah.
Sarah, this
Hi,
is
Allie. Nice to see you.
How can I help you? We're stressed. We're
Yeah.
moms. We've got multitasking going on. I feel like I fall victim to like a brain fog a little bit. I don't know if that's my age or whatnot.
You need a little bit of clarity, a little bit of energy.
Yep.
Right?
Is there of an IV that you would recommend for that? Thank you.
We call this the brainstorm.
The brainstorm.
The brainstorm.
Come visit We the People Health and Wellness Center,
Where medical freedom exists.
Hello and welcome back to Faith in Focus, the segment where we dive deep into matters of faith, history, and truth in a world full of misinformation. Today we're tackling a claim I see popping up online all the time, especially on X. Hitler and the Nazis were Christian. It's a hot-button accusation often thrown around in debates about religion and politics. We will refute this myth using solid historical sources, explore how Hitler manipulated Christianity for his twisted agenda, and highlight the brave Christians who resisted him, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer. We'll also address the fact that while most Germans identified as Christian, they were often kept in the dark by propaganda and deception. Stick around, this is going to be eye-opening. Let's start with the basics. In the 1930s, Germany was overwhelmingly Christian. A 1939 census showed that about 54% of the population identified as Protestant and 40% as Catholic, totaling around 94% Christian. With a population of around 80 million by then, including annexed territories, we're talking tens of millions of people raised in Christian homes, attending churches, and celebrating holidays like Christmas and Easter. But here's the key. Identifying as Christian doesn't mean supporting or even knowing about the horrors of the Nazi regime. Many Germans were nominal Christians, cultural believers who actually went along with the crowd. Hitler and his inner circle masterfully used propaganda to manipulate public perception, hiding the full extent of their atrocities behind a veil of nationalism and false promises. Think about it, the Nazis controlled the media, schools, and even churches to some degree. They spread lies about protecting Germany from enemies, framing the regime as a defender of traditional values. Ordinary citizens didn't have access to the truth about concentration camps or the Holocaust until it was too late, if ever. Propaganda films, rallies, and speeches, we've seen them all, painted Hitler as a savior figure. But behind the scenes, the regime was building a machinery of death that contradicted every core Christian teaching on love, mercy, and human dignity. Now, how did Hitler twist Christianity to push his Nazi agenda? He didn't embrace true faith, he exploited it. Early on, the Nazis promoted something called positive Christianity, a distorted version that stripped away Jewish roots from the Bible and aligned it with Aryan supremacy. Hitler gave speeches referencing God and providence to win over the masses. For example, in his 1933 Reichstag address, he claimed the regime would protect Christianity, but this was all smoke and mirrors. The Nazis supported groups like the German Christians who sought a Nazified church that incorporated racial ideology, even rewriting hymns and scriptures to fit anti-Semitic narratives. Theologians under Nazi influence twisted passages to promote authoritarianism and racial purity, claiming Jesus was an Aryan hero fighting Jewish influence. Symbols like the swastika were blended with Christian imagery in propaganda posters urging support by Nazi charities by portraying Aryans as divinely inspired. Even the Gott mit uns, God with us motto on military belts was a holdover from earlier eras, repurposed to give the regime a veneer of piety. But as the regime solidified power, it turned on the churches. By the late 1930s, the Nazis were repressing both Protestant and Catholic communities, closing seminaries, arresting clergy, and punishing for a unified Reich church under state control. In private, Hitler's views were even more damning. He saw Christianity as weak and Jewish-influenced, planning its eventual elimination after the war. High-ranking Nazis like Joseph Goebbels rejected Christian teachings outright, viewing them as incompatible with their pagan-inspired ideology of blood and soil. The Nazi Party wasn't a Christian movement. It was a quasi-religious cult emphasizing redemption through sacrifice to the state, not to God. They accommodated Christianity only as long as it served their goals, but the core of Nazism, eugenics, euthanasia, and genocide was antithetical to Christ's commands. If the Nazis were so anti-Christian at heart, why didn't more Germans resist? Well, many did, often at great personal cost as well. This brings us to the inspiring stories of Christian resistance. Take Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pastor and theologian who became one of the regime's earliest and most vocal critics. Born in 1906, Bonhoeffer was horrified by the Nazis' rise. In 1933, just months after Hitler became chancellor, he publicly opposed the regime's anti-Semitic laws and the Aryan paragraph that barred Jews from church rolls. Bonhoeffer also helped found the Confessing Church, a movement that rejected Nazi interference and affirmed biblical truth over state ideology. He trained underground seminarians, smuggled Jews to safety, and even joined a plot to assassinate Hitler as part of the German resistance. Arrested in 1943 for his involvement in Operation Valkyrie and other activities, Bonhoeffer spent his final years in prison, writing profound works like Letters and Papers from Prison. He was executed by hanging on April 9, 1945, just weeks before the war's end, at Flossenburg concentration camp. Bonhoeffer's resistance was rooted in his faith. He believed true discipleship meant standing against evil, even if it required guilt through drastic action. He wasn't alone either. The Confessing Church, with leaders like Martin Niemöller, criticized Nazi racial policies from the pulpit. Catholics, too, faced persecution. Think of the papal encyclical Mit brennender Sorge in 1937, which condemned Nazi ideology. And ordinary Christians in places like Poland hid Jews, risking their lives out of compassion. These stories show that authentic Christianity fueled opposition, not collaboration. Of course, not all Christians resisted because fear, propaganda, and complacency led many to comply or stay silent. But that's a human failing, not a flaw in faith itself. The Nazi success came from exploiting divisions and manipulating beliefs, not from embodying them. In closing, the myth that Hitler and the Nazis were Christian crumbles under scrutiny. They used faith as a tool for power while plotting its destruction. True believers like Bonhoeffer remind us that faith calls us to resist injustice, not enable it. If you're seeing this claim online, share the facts, share this podcast, because history matters. Thanks for tuning in to Faith in Focus. Join me next time as we explore more ways faith intersects with our world. Hi, Kevin here with Faith in Focus. If you enjoy my segments, go to coastalconservativenews.com and you will find audio versions of my podcast, Faith in Focus. God bless you.
They've censored the truth, manipulated the narrative, and told you to sit down and shut up.
But not here, not on our mic.
Open Mic with Allie and Michelle is the podcast where free speech lives, patriotism thrives, and the truth doesn't whisper, it roars.
That's right. We break down the stories the media buries, the policies that threaten your freedom, and the culture chaos Gen Z is waking up to literally every day.
From whistleblower exposés and global conflicts to the spiritual war on masculinity, we don't just talk about it, we say what they won't.
That's right. If you're tired of soft takes, scripted spin, and really plastic politics, it's time to tune in and turn up.
Because this mic is always open.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for Allie and I, coming live from the Department of Health meeting here in Panama City Beach, Florida. Keep it locked here to Coastal Conservative News for all the latest. Allie, we had a great time here, but
yes.
we need them to reach out and give us their story ideas as well, right?
Absolutely. If you have been affected by vaccine mandates, you've been, fired from your doctor, or you have not been allowed to participate in free education, then you need to contact us. So we'd love to hear your story, especially if you've been, not allowed to keep your job because you refuse to abide by mandates. So you can contact us at coastalconservativenews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Right. That's it for us this week, guys. We'll be back in the studio next week. Make sure you catch us Friday, 7 p.m. We'll see you next time.